Hi, I'm Barbara Rumkunis, and this is your Exeter History Minute. Our previous History Minute, American Independence Part 1, looked at the steps that led Exeter into becoming the state capital during the Revolutionary War. We ended that episode with a brief discussion of the New Hampshire Constitution adopted on January 5, 1776. Why did New Hampshire take this big step away from Britain months before the other colonies? Following the December raid on Fort William and Mary in 1774, Governor Wentworth's concerns about protests began to weigh heavily on him. He grew more anxious after shots were fired at Lexington and Concord, and especially after fighting at Bunker Hill resulted in armed camps around Boston. As these tensions mounted, he withdrew to Newcastle and later Halifax, Nova Scotia during the summer months of 1775, leaving New Hampshire without any actual governance. No courts, no new laws, no land allocations. Maybe he thought it would be temporary, but it resulted in leaving people with no legal system. New Hampshire people contacted the newly formed Continental Congress, which encouraged them to start thinking about organizing and governing themselves. Delegates in Exeter, who'd already been meeting as a kind of shadow government, began work on December 28, 1775, drafting a constitution for self-government. This extraordinary document, the first New Hampshire Constitution, was adopted on January 5, 1776, months before the remaining colonies declared independence. Sure, it still stated that it would become unnecessary if king and colony could work out their differences, but it remained the framework for New Hampshire government until 1784, when a post-war constitution was passed. But where did they meet? Where is Independence Hall in Exeter? Surely this would be a well-documented location, and the building has been cared for over the centuries. I wish that was true. Why can't we save the nice things? Maybe they weren't that nice? This type of question sends historians on a scavenger hunt looking for documentation and clues. It can be easy to find when new places are built. Not so easy to figure out what happened to the old ones. In 1775 and 6, when the discussions were going on, there were two civic meeting places in town, both built in the 1730s. At that time, the Congregational Church decided to build a new meeting house. The old church meeting house was torn down, and the timber was recycled to build a town house across the road. We know from the paper money riots after the war that both of these buildings were used. The legislature met in the church meeting house, and the Superior Court met in the townhouse, also called the courthouse or state house. So both these places were available, and the new Constitution could have been argued out and written in either place, or it could have been in a local tavern. Lots of official business took place in taverns. If they met at the church meeting house, that building was torn down and replaced in 1798 with the current church. It's weird talking about a new church built in 1798, but here it is, and it's quite lovely. But the 1730 church is gone. I tend to lean toward the townhouse. The descriptions we have of it, and there's no images or pictures, place it across the road from the church meeting house. We currently have a small park called Townhouse Common, which commemorates the spot. But the building was probably slightly toward the center of the current roadway, because there was another building that stood where the Townhouse Common stands, and it was there before and after the townhouse was erected. That would place the townhouse right in the middle of the road. This is where historian Nancy Merrill placed it on this map produced in 1972. You could put a building in the middle of the street back then. It's not like your horse was going to crash into it. In any event, by 1795, the old townhouse was in rough shape, so it was sold. No real record exists of who purchased it, but it was removed shortly thereafterwards because it's not on the 1802 map. It might have been razed, or according to local legend, moved, maybe to a location on the corner of Court and Bow Streets. I've heard numerous people tell me that it became the Court Street Garage in 1917. Maybe. If it was poorly treated considering its service to the state of New Hampshire. The Court Street Garage was torn down in 1958 without much fanfare, so if that was it, it's gone. Here's a photo of the location. I think the building's already gone, but it might also be the white frame building. It's very hard to tell. Today, it's a parking lot for the police and fire complex. So where was the first New Hampshire Constitution written and enacted? Exeter. Somewhere in Exeter. Happy birthday, New Hampshire. For more information about Revolutionary Era Exeter, visit our website at www.exeterhistory.org.